G'day guys, Justin here, coming at you with another NBA video. This time my NBA award winners for the 2017-2018 season. We're at the end of the regular season, and as we know, these are the regular season awards, so I will be deciding upon my winners from here. And as you can see from this opening slide and this opening thumbnail, you should be able to guess who's who, but we'll see what happens. So moving right into it, and my award winners for the 2017-2018 season. And just to quickly mention, these are my award winners. These aren't who will win the award or whatnot. These are the people who I think should win the award. So keep that in mind as you watch. So without further ado, let's get to the winners. My sixth man of the year came down to three people. I had Eric Gordon of the Houston Rockets. I had CJ Miles of the Toronto Raptors. But I went with Lou Williams of the Los Angeles Clippers. Lou, as the sixth man, 22.6 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, 5.3 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game, 0.2 blocks per game on 3 turnovers. Not bad for a guy coming off the bench. However, he's shooting a little to be desired from the field at 43.5%. However, shooting just under 36 from deep and 88% from the free throw line. Quite effective there. And getting some really strong minutes, starter minutes, as you would assume there from the bench for the Clippers at 32.8 minutes a game. Now, the highlights of Williams' season, other than individual games, were the fact that he had his career high average in points and career high average in assists. I believe this was totals as well. This is something to really look upon for the fact that Williams is coming off the bench and he is in the latter part of his career. Another thing to look at, that whilst coming off the bench, he was also the team leader in points, assists and games played. So even though he was, again, the leader of the bench, he led the team in points and led the team in assists. I'd like to go back over history and see how many six men have essentially led their team in scoring and distributing the basketball to their teammates over a whole span. Most games played, not shocked. A lot of starters generally rest nowadays and have over the history of the league. But for him to still be the leader in games played, reasonably impressive. He was voted Western Conference Player of the Week twice during the season and actually finished top 10 across the league in points and free throws. So pretty impressive there to be a top 10 scorer in the league and you're coming off the bench. And what else do you have to say? The guy had a tremendous year, bit of a shot jacker from the field, as I mentioned, 43.5%, a little to be desired. And 3 turnovers, again, that's something that certainly he'd like to improve on. But overall, a pretty good campaign for Lou Williams, and that's the reason why he is my sixth man of the year. Moving into most improved, there really weren't many people that were in this category. Giannis Antetokounmpo had a massive year, so he had a chance of getting in. Someone like Clint Capella for Houston played really well on both ends of the floor. This is a guy who's come from what was the D League, coming from the G League to now being arguably one of the 10 best defenders in the league, Clint Capella. But it was without a shadow of a doubt the most improved player for me over season 2017-2018 was Victor Oladipo of the Indiana Pacers. His numbers were 23.1 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists per game, 2.4 steals per game, and 0.8 blocks per game. Tremendous all-around game there. Only 2.9 turnovers, which isn't bad when you look at the amount of possessions he has and the effort he puts in on both ends of the floor. 47.7%, a little indifferent. I don't mind it, but I do feel that it could be improved. But when you look at the fact that he puts in the effort on defense and he's reasonably efficient, it isn't anything to worry about too much. 37.1% from deep, that's respectable, and that's what you'd expect from a guard now in the NBA. 79.9% from the free throw line, just under where you'd like to see him. I mean, with the amount of points he can score and his ability to play the game, I'd like to see him shooting about 83% from the free throw line in coming seasons. And 34 minutes per game, certainly nothing to scoff at. I mean, what didn't Oladipo do? He scored, had the ability to rebound, the ability to distribute, and most of all, and most importantly, he played both ends of the floor and he played them very well. He was improved in all major statistical categories from the previous season, so points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, along with his shooting percentages. He had career highs in points, rebounds, assists, steals, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage. Again, no shock there, considering he did improve on last year, let alone previous seasons. He was the team's leader in points and steals, no shock there. He was voted the All-Star to the All-Star team and was Eastern Conference Player of the Week 3 times. And across the league, he was top 10 in field goals made, steals, points per game, steals per game, steal percentage, and defensive win shares. So not only was he quite effective offensively, but he was really putting an imprint and really making a dent in the defensive end. And overall as well, he was the league leader in steals. He won the steals title. Again, when you want to look at the fact that the dude was putting in 23 a game on nearly 48% shooting, while also leading the league in steals, and was a top 10 defender overall when you want to look at steals and win shares provided on the defensive end, along with his steal percentage, so his impact on the game when he was there. Certainly a no-brainer as to why he was the most improved player of the year for me for season 2017-2018. As we go to Coach of the Year, for me it was a bit of a tussle. You had Bryan for Philadelphia. You had Dwayne Casey, head coach of Toronto. Hell, you even had Quinn Snyder, the coach of the Jazz. But for me, I think it had to go to Brad Stevens of the Boston Celtics. 52-27 record, so a winning percentage of 67.1. They were the 18th rated offensive team in the league, but they were the number 1 rated defensive team. And they were second in the Eastern Conference. Something that a lot of people don't realise is that this was the best professional coaching record to date for Brad Stevens. So in his tenure in Boston, he hasn't had a better season. And again, finished second in the conference. Did finish first last year, but less wins. Again, coached the number 1 rated defensive team, so really put some effort in on both ends of the floor. And he was without his 2 star players for a combined 103 games. Gordon Hayward was out in the first 5 minutes of Game 1 this season. He was without Kyrie Irving for 22 games. He still managed 55 wins, and he still managed to rate them not only the second best team in the Eastern Conference, but the best defensive team in the league. And essentially, he did all of this with a core group of guys with the average age under 25. You've only got to look at, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, all these young guys, Terry Rozier. They played valuable minutes and delivered on the big stage when needed. Kyrie Irving, another guy who's 25. I mean, he's a proven bona fide all-star in this league. Gordon Hayward not there, again, not counting that. But I mean, how do you take a guy who coaches the number 1 defensive rated team amongst, with a core group under 25, without their 2 star players combining for over 100 games? I mean, it's an unbelievable effort, and to me needs to be lauded and appreciated for his efforts as Coach of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, I did start with Andre Drummond this season, and he waned it a little bit. Rudy Gobert certainly started to make a case, but I think it was a no-brainer. Anthony Davis of the New Orleans Pelicans was by far and away the Defensive Player of the Year. He averaged 8.6 defensive rebounds a game, 1.5 steals per game, 2.6 blocks per game. Now, his defensive rating was 102.3. Now, a lot of people are going to sit there and go, wow, that was reasonably high. And I mean, he was still the team leader in defensive rating, but he wasn't a top 10 player in defensive rating across the league. So I think that's a little deceptive. That's where you've really got to look at the numbers and the impact they're making. He grabbed 24.8% of defensive rebounds. He had a steal percentage of 2. He had a blocks percentage of 5.6. 4.9 defensive win shares contributed to, and a 2.3 defensive box score plus minus. And you've only got to look at how much he led the team in defensive numbers. He led them in defensive rebounds, steals per game, blocks per game, defensive rebound totals, total blocks. He led them in defensive rating, defensive rebound percentage, steal percentage, block percentage, defensive win shares, and defensive block score plus minus. He was by far the leader of the team on both ends of the floor. And I think his defense was just as impressive as his offense. Was the league leader in blocks and blocks per game. It was also top 10 in the league in defensive rebounds, blocks total, blocks per game, obviously, block percentage and defensive win shares. So a top 10 overall player defensively, regardless of the whole numbers. And another thing that's key to this contribution is the fact that even when DeMarcus Cousins went down, he was still able to improve their winning percentage. I believe they went from 56% in the win column with DeMarcus Cousins to 60% without him in that time period. So for him to step up not only with that great offensive contribution and still dominate the defensive end, I think it's an absolute no-brainer that Anthony Davis needs to be the Defensive Player of the Year. And as we come to the penultimate award for the year, the Rookie of the Year for me, it was a two-horse race. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell being the other candidate, but I just feel for all-around game and consistency that Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers will be and should be the Rookie of the Year. Simmons averaged 15.8 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 8.2 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, and 0.9 blocks per game. All-around numbers and all-around play is what's going to earn Simmons this Rookie of the Year. 3.4 turnovers, a little to be desired, but certainly can be improved upon. Again, it's his rookie year. Shot 54.5% from the field, despite not making a three-pointer. Getting a jump shot is going to be key for Simmons, but then again, he's only a rookie. 56% from the free throw line, again, improving that shooting form is going to improve that free throw stroke, but certainly something he wants to look at and improve. On 33.7 minutes a game, so a reasonably good contribution. Again, there are some flaws that need to be worked out, but he's going to be able to do that. This dude's one of the best all-around players in the game already in his rookie year, and he's arguably a top 10 defender in the league. So you've only got to go look at his contribution on the defensive end. You've only got to look at his contribution in an all-round sense and how consistent he is with that to see that he's Rookie of the Year. He led every rookie in the league in minutes, rebounds, assists, steals, rebounds per game, and assists per game. He was top 10 for all rookies in field goals made, free throws made, despite the fact of that free throw percentage, which is ridiculous. He led them in offensive rounds, blocks, points total, field goal percentage, top 10, I should say. So despite this, he was top 10 field goals made, free throws made, offensive rebounds, blocks, points, field goal percentage, minutes played, and points per game. So imagine missing almost half your free throws and still being top 10 in all rookies. Then you've only got his contribution across the league. He was top 10 in the league in two-pointers made, assists, steals, assists per game, steals per game, assist percentage, defensive rating, defensive win shares, and defensive box score plus minus. His effect on the game is already there, and it's only going to grow. It's a scary thought for Ben Simmons. And finally, to round it off, he was the team leader in games started, minutes played, field goals made, two-pointers made, assists, steals, minutes per game, field goal percentage, assists per game, and steals per game. So he's pretty much, other than scoring all the points, pretty much leading that Philadelphia 76ers team. I think Embiid has more potential, but you've only got to see his contribution on both ends of the floor. I mean, him and Embiid as a tandem for possibly the next 5 seasons, because one of them's going to get a big contract, or when it comes up, it's going to be ridiculous. But I mean, for me, Simmons on both ends of the floor. He's got a more rounded game, not necessarily more efficient. But his shooting percentage, his field goal percentage certainly is. For me, he's the Rookie of the Year. I think Mitchell's going to be a phenomenal player, but Ben Simmons for me, the Rookie of the Year, and there isn't really an argument against it. Finally, we come to the MVP. Now, I had James Harden as my MVP pretty much all throughout the season. The only other players I really had in contention were, someone like a Russ, because, the dude averaged a triple-double for his second season. LeBron James had a good year, not a great year, but a good year. LaMarcus Aldridge had a good all-around year. Jimmy Butler looked good until he went out injured. LaMarcus Aldridge, did so much in San Antonio with so little help. But for me, the MVP of the league, the best player in basketball this season and for the near future, none other than Anthony Davis of the New Orleans Pelicans. For the year, Davis had 28.1 points per game, 11.1 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game, and 2.6 blocks per game. This is a dude who's pouring in 28 a game and still being the best defender in the league. Scary stuff. And only 2.2 turnovers, so his efficiency with the basketball and maintaining possession is awesome. Shooting numbers for a big, efficient out of sight. 53.4 from the field, 34 from deep, 82.8 from the stripe. All above where they need to be, no doubt about it. And 36.4 minutes, essentially 36 minutes a game. He's producing in 3 quarters how he needs to. For the Pelicans alone, he led them in field goals made, 2-pointers made, free throws made, points, rebounds, blocks, points per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, blocks per game, and minutes per game. He was the league leader in 2-point shots made, blocks and blocks per game. And across the league, he was top 10 in field goals made, free throws made, defensive rebounds, total rebounds, points, minutes per game, rebounds per game, player efficiency rating, offensive win shares, defensive win shares in general, win shares over 48 minutes, and value over replacement player. Now, a lot of those are advanced stats, but I mean, this is just the sort of impact you've got to look at. Not only is he doing it from all facets in the scoring department, not only is he playing good minutes, not only is he scoring, not only is he rebounding, he's efficient when he does it, he's contributing to wins, and he's playing defense. I mean, I haven't even mentioned here that he was the league leader in 2-pointers made, blocks and blocks per game. There was not a better shot blocker in the league this year than Anthony Davis, and there wasn't anyone better at scoring 2 points than Anthony Davis this year. He led his team to a better winning percentage after DeMarcus Cousins got injured. As I mentioned a couple of slides ago, the Pelicans were 56% in the win column when DeMarcus Cousins was playing, and at the time DeMarcus Cousins has been out until the end of the regular season, Anthony Davis led them 60% wins, whilst also being the best defender and the best offensive player of the team. He would also be, and has been, the first player since Tim Duncan in 2001-2 to finish top 5 across the league in points per game, rebounds per game, and blocks per game. No surprises there, Duncan won the MVP. Now, I think it's a bit premature to assess Duncan as Davis as one of the greatest power forwards ever. The dude has a lot of work to do. But, I mean, he's on track to build a legacy that's respectable enough to be considered that, and an all-around game to be, considered that. He's got a lot more miles on the body. He's got a lot more minutes, a lot more games, a lot more experience to garner, and a hell of a lot of legacy points to earn. But he's on the right track, and for me, he should be the MVP this season. He's the best all-around player in the game, the best player in basketball, the best defender, probably the most versatile offensive player. Again, you've got a big guy shooting 34% from deep, shooting 50% from the field, and over 80% from the stripe. Second in points per game this year, top 5 in rebounds per game, was nearly top 10 in steals, led the league in blocks. There's not much more you can say. 2.2 turnovers, uber efficient. Anthony Davis is the most valuable player this season and in the entire league. There is no question about it. That's been the video, guys. Thank you very much for bearing with me. I've had a bit of a head cold, self-inflicted. No need to get into details over that one. Hit the like button and leave a comment. Let me know who you thought should be this year's award recipients. Any players you think deserve an honourable mention. And who do you think actually will win it? Not who you want to win it, but who will win it. We know how the NBA votes, so that can be a hell of a lot different. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan, with the same sort of feedback. Always there for conversation, always talking with people. And subscribe, check out the channel. There's going to be a hell of a lot more videos over the playoffs. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing the MVP of each playoff series, not necessarily the entire playoffs. I will cover most of them though. But yeah, I want you to go over, want you to stay in the channel. And keep an eye on that. There'll be other topical videos coming up as well. As the All-NBA teams come out, as the All-Defensive teams come out, as your rookie team comes out, I'll react and give my own thoughts on that. And there'll be other, topical videos throughout the playoffs and what will eventually be the postseason as well. So again, thank you very much, guys. Hit the thumbs up button, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, who are your players of the year, who are your award recipients, who you think will get it and who should get it and who missed out. Subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos on basketball. And again, hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G Bryan, for more interaction. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video.